What's up everyone? Welcome back to my 4-Star School YouTube channel. In the last lesson, we have talked about the base usage for the Dio package. So in today's lesson, we're going to cover some advanced feature provided by the Dio package. If you are new to my channel, feel free to reach out to my channel page and you will find a Flutter GetX build app from scratch tutorial, a Flutter UI from scratch tutorial, Flutter Network tutorial, Flutter GetX tutorial, Flutter tutorial, and Dart programming language tutorial. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, sum up my content, and open the notification so you won't miss out the latest Flutter tutorial. So without further ado, let's get started. The topic I'm going to cover today is the interceptors. So the interceptor, that means when you're sending the request, you have some mechanism that can intercept the request, response, and error before they get handled. And there is two ways you can implement these interceptors using the Dio package. So the first way is you're going to use the built-in class provided by the Dio package. For example, in here will be the InterceptorsWrapper. This class will execute the interceptor concurrently. However, in some scenario, you're going to execute these interceptors sequentially. So you're probably using the built-in class, which is called QueuedInterceptorsWrapper. This is the first way. You're just using the built-in class provided by the Dio package. So another way is you create your own class, but you need to extend the interceptors class provided by the Dio package, and you're going to override the three methods. So the first one will be onRequest, and the second one is onResponse, and the third one is onError. After that, you can add those interceptor to your Dio instance by calling Dio.interceptors.add method, or you have multiple interceptors, so you could call Dio.interceptors.addAll method. Let's look at some code example that you'll get yourself familiar with. So let's open our Visual Studio Code. As you see, I wrote the code before today's lesson. I created this Dio Interceptor.dart file, and inside I'm using the second way, which I create my custom class that extends the interceptors class, which comes from this Dio package. I call it Dio Interceptor, which extends the interceptors. And there's three methods I'm going to override. So the first one would be onRequest, and the second one is onResponse, and the third one is onError. There are some scenarios we could process the request before it actually get handled by our server. So the first scenario is suppose we have an endpoint that categorized into two parts. The first part is the public endpoint. The second part is the private endpoint. So for the private endpoint, we're going to append the user ID, and we could get the URL by using this options.path, and we could check if it contains some keyword they used by the public endpoint. So if it doesn't, so we will assume it's a request to access our private endpoint. So we're going to append the user ID. So that would be our first scenario. So the second scenario is we're going to validate our user and append the token to the header before the request is sent to our server. So this is quite straightforward. So we're just using this option, and we could access the headers attribute, and we're going to append our token to the header before it actually handled by our server. So the third scenario is we're trying to requesting a refresh token before the request actually handled by our server. So first, we're going to check the header contains the refresh token. If it's not, we're going to log the currently Dio instance, and we will create a new Dio instance using the new Dio instance to send the request, and we will set the refresh token after when we get the response data back, and then we can forward the request to our server. And also when the request complete, we're going to unlock the currently Dio instance. Seems every business have a different implementation for their backend, so I cannot guarantee which one is the best. So you need to decide based on your own business requirement. The last line of this onRequest method is the super.onRequest. So basically, it just forward the request to the server. As you see, when I click this interceptor.tar file, you see when I call super, it just forward our request. Yeah, it's pretty simple. So that's basically everything for this onRequest method. So for the onResponse method, they also have some different scenario. We could actually intercept the response before it actually sent to the client. So the first scenario is we could check the status code. If it's equal to 200, we could do something, right? And otherwise, we could probably reject the request or show some message. So another way is we could check the response.request option.base URL if it contains some secret route, right? If it contains some secret route, we could reject the response and show some message to the client. And the last line for this onResponse method also we call the super.onResponse. Basically, it just forward the response to the client. That's it. And last but not least is this onError method. So we override this onError method. We could catch this error, and we could write the switch statement. Depends on the error type. If it's connect timeout, we could show some message, or if it's a receive timeout, send timeout, or cancel a response or other kind of error, we could do something based on your own business logic. So after that, we will call this super error. Probably just forward the error to the client. That is how we create our own interceptors that extends the interceptor class. So another way, as I mentioned, we could use the built-in class. So back to this Dio example. In here, I actually create these interceptors by using the built-in class. And every interceptor, you could either forward the request, so just call this handle.next and you'll pass the option. And if you're going to resolve the response, so you could call like handle.resolve and you pass the response, or you can call the handle.reject and you pass the error message. If you're going to using this interceptor wrapper, they also provide 3 methods. So first one is onRequest. So in the onRequest, as you see, I do nothing. I just forward a request. So another example is you can resolve this request by sending the response back to the client. Right? And another one is this onResponse method. Here I just forward the response, and you could, as I show in this comment, you can reject a response to the clients. You can also do something with the response error inside this onError method. So that's probably the same as you create your own interceptor class. Yeah, they're basically doing the same thing. And this is just a shorthand. You can create the interceptor using the built-in class InterceptorsWrapper. So you're going to call this Dio.interceptor.add. You can add a single interceptor. So if you're going to add a multiple interceptors, you could call Dio Dio.interceptor.add all. So you could pass a list of interceptor here. Here I'm using this Dio Dio.interceptor because I make it these variable static. So let's check our Dio client. So we create this Dio and I make it static. So I can just using this class name.dio. And so in the reality, you're going to create your own HTTP util class, and you probably were using some design pattern like singleton to wrap these Dio client. Here I make it static just for demo. So if you're interested in how to build your own HTTP util class by wrap these Dio client, so I could create a tutorial talking about that. And we could also create these QueuedInterceptorsWrapper, and the logic is the same as I show in here. So we're going to check our refresh token. Okay, so here I'm going to check if the refresh token, and then I can send a request. So probably the same, and those logic just right inside this onRequest, and we can have this onError. So onError, we could check some status code. Suppose it's a 401. 401 means the token is expired. When the token expire, we're going to probably need to send to our token route again to refresh our token. So something like this. And after we success, we could trying to fetch this request and repeat this whole process. And after that, we could forward the request. Okay, that's all for today's lesson. I highly recommend you to reach out to the Dio official documentation. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, sum up my content, and open the notification so you won't miss out the latest Flutter tutorial. Okay, thanks for watching. I will see you in next video.